Good afternoon to everybody, especially those that they pass a long trip here. So, and also I thank you from the director of the National Historic Museum of Hangzhou. Thank you for invitation. Before to go to speak about the exhibitions, it will be good to briefly talk about the misery of the National Museum of Afghanistan, because it's unique. I think it's not happening to other museums in the countries. And after that, we go through to the sites, because those relics that we put them for exhibition. So it's good to go and briefly talk about that too. The National Museum of Afghanistan first was established parallel with the independence of Afghanistan. On that time, the artifacts and relics for showing an exhibition, it was just a handcraft and handicraft and some flags and some other things. So royal family that was from during Amanullah Khan, the king that he brought the independence. But museum. The museum went first went to Koti Bakhcha. That was a presidential palace. And then I think it was not a good place for that, so they changed him to Bagabala. And after that, the second part that still we have the museum there, that was a municipal of that time in the government. So it's located to the south of Kabul. Darlaman, near opposite of the Darlaman Palace. Museum after 1922 that he signed an agreement with the DAFA Archaeology Foundation. The museum collection were day by day the collection were more and more. So, but on that time, it itself was an example of the Silk Road, because all these relics and artifacts which was coming to the museum, it was an example, and it was related to the Silk Roads. But unfortunately, in 1990, the misery of museum started with the 2 decades of war. First, the Mujahideen wars, that they used the museum as a trench of war. And 70% of the relics and artifacts were illicit and looted by people. Another war started, so the museum was destroyed and razed to the ground. But you guys will ask that why we have the Afghanistan treasure now in China, where it comes from. So during the wars, the staff and member of the museum, they got an exciting working, so they took all this collection and put it to the presidential palace to hiding places. Contact with the president on that time, Najibullah, one of the parallel with the Soviet that it was in Afghanistan. So during the Taliban, another misery came to the museum. Those sculptures especially, and those statues, they were broken almost by Taliban. And also you were witness about the two colossal of Buddhas in Bamyan. Parallel with this, there was nothing in the museum. So by the new government in 2003, the Global Heritage Committee, Cultural Heritage Committee with the UNESCO, they all came together and start a new museum for Afghanistan. Oriental Institute of Chicago, he made a database, a collection, and a common database for the museum. The Greek country built the building of the museum. And one day, when they opened those storerooms in the presidential palace, it was the second treasure again. So first it was discovered by a Soviet by the name of Syrianidi in 1978, that he discovered all these treasure, golden treasure, from the 7th tomb. But it was the same time that it was war between Soviet and Mujahideen. And he, with a co-worker of the Afghan archaeologists, they were working together, and they opened only 5 tombs. They were skeleton with all jewelry on it. like with 4 women and 1 man. The treasure that we see, most of the relics belongs to women. And when they found it, all the media and reporters were there. So this was a hot news for everyone, even in Afghanistan or outside Afghanistan. But they said it should be to go and be an exhibition for all the world, that they should see that. That's why we have them now in China and Beijing. So first it went to France, and after that it went to, Australia, Canada, United States. It came to Korea, Japan, and now we have them in China, in Beijing. The exhibition that I want to speak about that is related to the Silk Road. You know why? Because the main branch of Silk Road has crossed from beside of this archaeological site. The archaeological site name is Mes Aynak. That's why we put 2 names on this exhibition. The one is recent excavation along the Silk Road, and the second is Mes Aynak. Mes Aynak is the name of the site. It's the name of the site, but the appearance of the name comes from copper mine. Mes means copper. Aynak means little. It means something like small things of copper, but it's opposite. This is the 2nd largest copper mine in the world. But fortunately, in 2008, we had a good agreement between MCC, Chinese company, to extract the copper mine. But with the agreement of our Ministry of Information and Culture, and Ministry of the Geology, they said there is 2 things. If we take out all these copper, so it's gonna be a big harm for these relics. So first of all, it will be better to take care about these heritages. So that's why the company are staying still and waiting. And as soon as possible, the archaeologists, they are taking out all these relics. This area, this is Mes Aynak, and you can see why we say this is the roads. This is the roads that lead Afghanistan to India, and this is another Silk Road that goes across to Europe. But Afghanistan was playing a vital role to be parallel with the Silk Road, because Afghanistan, by location of Afghanistan, that it's located in the heart of Asia. So many times when we go to see the relics, it's 100% related to many and mixture of cultures in Afghanistan. Sometimes we can see Sasani period. Sometimes we see Indian mixture style and arts, and sometimes like Ottomanite and Kushan. So it's parallel with the Kushan empires. This is the exhibition that I curated with my colleagues. Actually, you guys know that after all these miseries, we don't have those facilities to make a good and normative exhibitions or museums. But still we have time. Still we have time to go. This is the head of Buddha, and this is the seated Buddha. That I should tell you that most of these relics that found from Mes Aynak is all unbaked clay, but these are not intact completely. Sometimes we take out the head without the body. Sometimes we take the body without the head or without the arms and foot. These are other heads that I told you guys, that the heads of Buddhas with the disciples and donors that we found. And these are donors that they have in their hand the lotus flowers. Another foot of Buddha and head of perhaps disciple or donors. These coins are related to the Mes Aynak. we found a hoard of Sassanid coins, more than 1,000, with this small picture that it's related to that coins. These coins are, belongs to Kushan empires, and the others are completely Sassanid, and it shows a good relationship between Kushan empires and Sassanids. Perhaps this Mes Aynak was a merchant or commercial bazaar when the Silk Road was crossed to go to India. And these are, besides that Mes Aynak goes to a Buddhist era, it's also, the archaeologists found the remain of Bronze Age. So that belongs to Bronze Age. This is Mes Aynak, the entire site that I told you. Beside that, we found the relics, that it all goes to Buddhist era. This is the largest copper mine. This is another side of the mountain, Mes Aynak mountain. We see a lot of monasteries and complexes and settlements. Perhaps there is 2 or 3 reasons why people gathering here in the dry land here. But maybe on that time, we had some springs that it was coming from the valleys and mountains. But now, we don't have any water there. So the Mes Aynak mountains, some of these archaeological sites is under the layer of these artifacts. We have a lot of copper mine, so that's why we call them red zone. Red zone, why? Because as soon as possible, the archaeologists need to take him out because there is a treasure under the treasure. This is. I told you that we have many famous sites in Mes Aynak. The first famous site is by the name of Gul Hamid. Gul Hamid is almost, you see, a settlement and complexes. But I told you, most of the artifacts are clay. Only we can find the intact coins and those missile relics. This is the archaeologists, they want to take out the layer and want to research about more and more that what's gonna happen after they want to research about the layers, that which periods are in there completely. This is another entire side of the Mes Aynak, but after the recognition of these 3 or 4 sites, we have a lot of archaeological sites that it's laid out in this valley. Perhaps it takes a long time to discover it. And these are Afghan archaeologists this is a votive stupas. You know, beside the central stupa in the Buddhist monastery, we see a lot of votive stupas. Because in the Buddhism religion, if someone wants to make a stupa, when he wants and we decide, he go by his private money to build a votive stupa. That's why they call votive stupas. This is the map of the leading of the Silk Road, that it goes to Pakistan or Taxila. And this is the Indus River, and that is India. Perhaps on that time, so it was only India had a border with Afghanistan. And this is also Shamar Tapa. This is another site, famous site by the name of Shamar Tapa, that you can see the central stupa is over there. In the niches, you can see the seated Buddha is here, and that's why we covered this one, because this is all in the valley. So this is for the protection that we made it now. And this is actually not, it's a Buddha. This is a princess, and this is a monk that he gave advice to the princess. and it was found beside the votive stupas in Mes Aynak. And besides that, we have clay and also coins. We have a wooden architectures that they were using for designing of the rooms and houses. And the antiquity of the Mes Aynak, besides that it's the remain of Bronze Age, it goes to Kushan period, and it goes to from 1st century to up to 9th century. Perhaps after Kushan decline, there was Kabul Shahi, also local rulers. They were taking the power up to the coming of Islam in this site. Also another votive stupas with all the mixture art of Indian and a little, we can see a little mixture of the Chinese and Sassanid. And this is the donors, a lotus flower in their hands, and all are unbaked clays. And these are many Buddhas that it's inside of a monastery. With a sleeping Buddha, here in the scene of Nirvana. You know, when Buddha was passed away, we call this saint, we call Nirvana. This is perhaps this is a big and central stupa in one monastery from Kafri Tapa. Kafri Tapa and Valley Baba is close to the copper mine. That's why as soon as possible they want to discover and take care of that first. And this is a seated Buddha with a wall painting. Actually, this side is parallel and it has a similarity of the Afrasiab that one of the speakers were talking about, Afrasiab. Yeah, because at the same time we have unbaked clay in Afrasiab sites. At the same time we have an empty room with all these wall painting with a seated Buddha. But as we go to the history in the Tang Shou book of Tang history, it says, in this wall painting room, the kingdom of, or king of Sogdian, perhaps it was Kushan, because on that time, the kingdom of Sogdian was the great Kanishka, because Kanishka, before Kanishka, there was 5 group of tribe by the name of Yuchis, that they came from the beyond border of China. First when they came, they replaced to Bakhtar. Bakhtar was the mother of land that we call now Balkh. After that, they enlarge and they extend their empires, that it was from Iran up to the India. This is another monastery. Perhaps, as I told you before, we are not safe. As we are not safe, our archaeological site is not also safe. Perhaps by the researching of the archaeologists or Afghan archaeologists, the half of these sculpture was illicit and illegally was sold somewhere. Because when this site was recognized as an archaeological site in 1963 by the DAFA Foundation, Mr. Fushman. So because of the insecure and instability, they were registered this site in 1982. There's a long distance in time. On that time, it was unknown. And many times during the Taliban, it was also a trench of war. This is a wall painting that I told you before. This is always seated Buddha. And also in Tang Shou book of Tang history in 1060 EC, CE, it says, the face of, in the historian book, it says, the face of Byzantine, Turkish, Persian, and Chinese were drawing in these walls. It's parallel with the Afrasiab sites. Another seated Buddha in the meditation scene. Perhaps, maybe they illustrate half of this, or maybe because of the material, it's incomplete. This is Kafri Tapa. This is the view of excavation. And this is two Buddhas that we finally, unfortunately, we have them in our lab in the museum, in the National Museum. We have both of them. So one of them are gilded with the robe is gilded with the gold and with the color. And this one, this niche was not when we took it to the museum. These are two donors, or two monks, or two disciples. This niches was not there, so we took it to the lab and we restored this site, because this is Buddha in the niche, and this didn't have any niche here. So these are seated Buddha. That's why we have them a little bit intact. And these are the Mes Aynak Mountain from almost top of the site. This is stupas, and all these are votive stupas. Another monastery with all unbaked clays, standing Buddhas. Perhaps we can find those places that we have Buddhas parallel with the Buddha, Bamyan Buddha, but we are not sure about that. This is the Buddha that I showed you before. This is from the site that we took a picture, and that was from the lab, the museum, Buddha in the niches. This is another new site that the archaeologists discovered and put the name of 045 on it. Perhaps it's also a complex and settlement of Buddhist era, especially here. And also, I should tell you that the Silk Road stations were found in many sites of Afghanistan. That's why, because it was leading the convoy of Silk Roads, that they were passing nights or the time of break. Perhaps this is that it's laying out along the Silk Roads, and we have the same in Bakhtar or Balkh, or also Bamyan. It's these three kind of settlements, and we have a bazaar markets with all these coins. We should imagine that this is not only a monastery. This was a commercial bazaar, that there was a group and a huge bazaar when it was laying the Silk Road along it. This is a fireplace or fire temples. Actually, when in my view, and I went to many sites of Buddhist area in Kabul, because most of the sites that we have in Tape Naranj, Koletut, Tape Maranjan, in the Buddhist area, they put the fire temple on the top. Perhaps these are the place for the monks that they were getting and make us. This was especially for the session of the monks, and they were building to the highest places than the monasteries and complexes. These are Buddhas, but not unbaked clay. This is schist stone. These are two disciples of Buddha, seated Buddha. Also, it shows many scenes of Buddha. And this is also Buddha with one disciples that is kneel down. Another place of the same Mes Aynak that it shows the starting of work of archaeologists in the site. This is another votive stupas was found. And around this is niches. Perhaps they were all the Buddha's statue, but now it's empty. There is nothing, even the debris of this the statue. Perhaps they are illicit or illegally take it. We came to the ceramic of Mes Aynak. The ceramic of Mes Aynak is with a special motif of stamps. We have this kind of stamps with the bronze material. And also this is depicting an Indian art here. And perhaps it belongs to 4th to 6th century. We can imagine that after, in some of the archaeologists' view and evidence, some of these monasteries were deserted by the monks. Deserted by the monks. Why? Because by the coming of Islam, these monasteries were deserted by the monks and by those that they were taking care about these monasteries. And also after Kushan empires, they were taken by the local rulers. Still we had, up to the conquest of Islam, it was some Kabul Shahi that they were not converted to Islam. And also this is a ceramic jack with the 2 handles found from Wali Baba sites. I told you Wali Baba was the only site that we found a lot of coins, different coins of Scythian, Kushan, Sassanid, Undu Shahi, that I told you they were local rulers. Perhaps they were using this as a cooking, dishes. It says that it was on a fire. Also, fragments of pots that you can see here. A good motif of Sassanid, that we have Sassanid coins here by the crown here. So we can imagine that we have many different kind of relics from many different empires. Also, this one is in the site, but this one is from the exhibition that I curated. Actually, I told you guys that we don't have those facilities that other museum has. So with all these things that we can make it, our exhibition is about 70 or less than that, 70 meters square. So in the future, we want to take more care about that, to make a new exhibition of Mes Aynak, because we have like 90% of the relics in these 2 rooms, especially those 1,000 coins of Sassanid, silver coins with the 3 trays of silver with the half image of profile of the second Shapur. Second Shapur was a great king of Sassanid. Yeah, the top it's depicting Kushan. This is Kanishka actually. Kanishka with the Central Asian robes and clothing. One thing else, that this one you guys see the Nandi Cow. This is called Nandi Cow. In some time, I am the curator of numismatic. So actually, it's common, unusual. In the coins, if you guys see, in one side, it's half for the standing of the king, that it's related the coins for the king, whatever, Kushan or Sassanid. On the other side, they depict their religion. But in Kushan period, we see many kind of goddess, even the Greek goddess. So this is an Indian goddess. You know why? Because in Kushan period, it was a freedom of religion. And it was accepted all the religion together, and there was no conflict about the religion. And this one is Sassanid, perhaps the second shapur that I saw last night, many kind of Sassanid coins. So this is depicting the relationship of the museums first, that they have the relic which related to the Silk Roads. And these are also Sassanid coins. This is before that they brought in the museums, but we took it to the lab, and these are after the restorations. All of them are, most of them are silver. And it's perhaps this is most of them are the second shapur, as we have them, their face in the trays, in the 3 trays, silver trays. And this is another votive topaz, and they found a skeleton, and still we want to do the research about that. It was in 2011 that they discovered these two. This one is topaz with one skeleton. Yeah, these are Buddhas with the disciples or donors. Why we have all these intact head? The good things for these heads are that only they were mixing stucco with the clay. That's why we have them intact. Than the bodies. The body was completely clay, but the head, a little bit, they were using stucco. We know that the stucco is harder and good than the clay. And another excavated site inside the red zone. This is we call red zone because the under layer of that is completely copper mine. And why we have all the coins from this period that we have in Kushan empires, the archaeologists, they found a furnace melting of copper in one of these tunnels and one of these caves. Perhaps the Kushan Empire, they were applying and taking all these, they were using this copper for making coining and coinage for their coins. And this is, I think, the winter time. And these are, I think, they are too tired, like we are tired now. And thank you for paying attention.